Hello and welcome to another episode of Literary Gladiators, the show where we discuss and debate literature in all of its forms. If it's written work, it's game. Let's meet the panel.
I'm John.
Charlie.
And I'm Josh. Already then.
This is Oreo.
Oh, Oreo. Oh, Oreo can be our fourth person. I don't think Oreo will be sticking around for long, but...
You're right.
Okay. What are we going over today, Laney?
Little Red Riding Hood by the Brothers Grimm.
Okay. We haven't gone over anything by the Grimm Brothers just yet, so this is going to be... I enjoyed reading Hansel and Gretel, but this is something that is special onto itself.
I know a different set of brothers, the Isley Brothers. Their music, 60s. Check it out. Pretty good. Twist and shout.
You do make me want to shout, Charlie.
Thank you.
I made the pun today.
Oh, okay. So it was just a joke.
Yeah, sometimes you do make me want to shout, though. What's the first question?
First question is, are there major
I'm sorry.
differences you've seen in this story, and how about its many retellings?
Oh, most certainly. That's any of the fairy tales were meant to scare children back in the day. They weren't meant to deliver the moral gently.
No, they wanted to basically that's what they did. They scared the living you know what out of
It's
you.
definitely the best way to get a message across to the kids.
Scare
Just
tactic.
Scare the life out of them, and they will remember.
And these were all, the Grimm brothers collected these tales from different tellings from the citizens of, they were from Germany, so it was from people within the community, and then they put together these different stories. But Little Red Riding Hood is one of the most notable. The fact that they...
And it's gruesome too. It's near the end.
It's a fairy tale that can't even be taught in school today.
Yeah.
But it's just because it's not because of the fact that it's gory, but it's the fact they mention alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
She's carrying wine to her grandmother.
Yep.
And
Can't,
so it
sorry,
is
that's not allowed in
banned.
school. It's teaching us. Nope. Sorry. Alcohol. I'm like,
They could have easily switched it with prune juice though,
yeah.
and gotten the same result.
Yeah, or sparkling cider of some sort. Keep it
But
on
if
the
you
tongues.
actually look at what the story is about, you'd think that they would have other reasons than just because there's a bottle of wine in the basket.
Yeah.
She's not drinking the wine, she's just carrying wine, and that was enough to get banned.
I would think that the fact that grandma and a little girl getting eaten would be more.
And
No,
then,
that's
but-
perfectly fine
and-
according to our
but the
Well,
way-
violence
Yeah,
in
right.
America is totally
But the
I-
fact
you
that if it was grandma got chewed up like a T-bone steak and swallowed into guck, then that would be a whole other ballgame. That would be, but
it's
they.
more gory and descriptive.
Kind of make me. That kind of reminds me of what I just said. That poor Oreo.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
There actually are like retellings where it is more graphic and gruesome that I've seen, and especially in television for this
I can see
particular
that.
story.
I can see that they would do that. That is true.
But as far as the many retellings, I mean, the original story is pretty much the Grimm's story, you know, because the Grimms took it pretty much word for word.
It is grim.
Up until, you know, he says, you know, my, what big teeth you have, and then the wolf eats her. So up until that point,
Better to
that
eat
was
you
what
than
the
to
earlier
eat.
thing. So that was where the story ended in the early tales. You know, the Grimms came along, and they added, you know,
The
the
hunter.
hunter coming along and cutting open the wolf, you know, freeing the grandmother and Little Red Riding Hood. And then,
First he was going to use the axe on them, but because he realized they were in there, he used a pair of scissors to cut them out.
right. And then the second part of the story is Little Red Riding Hood is at the grandmother's again, and another wolf comes, and they trick the wolf into getting onto the roof, and it ended up falling off and dying. So it's basically they've learned their lesson at that point. But I mean, the original story is what is the most important part.
I think in a way it was to some degree it was necessary, but they could have had a similar effect without using it.
Me too.
I don't know if they absolutely needed to mention that this happened to them again and they were smarter. But it was there.
But also, you have to look at the Grimm Brothers' history, and you know, all of their works were edited many times. They changed their own stories multiple times, and it could have just been, you know, they needed to republish and get more money with a new edition. But every single time, the stories always changed and became more lighthearted, away from the dark tales that were the originals.
Okay.
You know, and nothing, you know, no different than what Disney has done to every single one of.
Just thinking.
You know, to every single one of
Yeah,
the
I like
Yep.
Disney. We're not gonna talk crap about Disney.
Disney's the complete opposite of what fairy tales were meant to be.
Mhm.
Glitter, sunshine, happiness.
And then Hollywood, too.
oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, read, you know,
The
Little
original,
Mermaid.
the original telling of
500%.
Sleeping
Oh.
Beauty.
Oh, we're
my
going over
gosh.
that this season, if we
It's,
have not gone
you know,
over it yet.
completely different story, completely different theme.
Mm.
But I
Yeah.
think that it
They're not seashells. There's
brings its
seashells.
message across the Little Mermaid.
It was a joke.
So.
But the little, well, we're not discussing the Little Mermaid now, but the moral of the story is completely different. And I think it's actually been a disservice to women in the way the Disney version has come across, as opposed to what it was originally
It's
saying.
just recently
agree.
have they really been asserting those particular issues. But next question.
What do you feel is the moral to the story? Do you feel that it is only about not talking to strangers?
Well, may I?
Yeah.
It does. I feel yes, that's the main point. But also, I think there's another story as well. Take the straight and narrow path. Don't go. Now, of course, this is more what you could probably say philosophical, but take the straight and narrow path. Don't go off the path.
I agree with you. I think that the fact that she not only spoke to, but then again, that's also a part of not talking to strangers.
Oh, yeah.
The strangers lying to them,
Yeah.
and the fact that she was gullible to believe him
Yeah.
and enjoy the sights on your way to see Grandma.
That's,
And
yeah.
she did that. She fell for it.
Yeah. And what happened?
Yeah. Then Grandma got eaten, and
Grandma didn't get run over by a reindeer this time. No, but in all seriousness, that's, you don't talk to strangers unless, you just don't, unless you're asking for the time, and, that's it. And,
Or you're in a supermarket waiting in line.
yeah, you want to start a conversation, gauge the person out. Do they look like they want to kill you? Don't talk to them.
if you think they're strange, if you think they are strange as strangers, then just get the heck away
Yeah,
from them.
yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
strangers is probably the most polite way. You could discuss this. If you're trying to explain it to children what the
Yeah.
moral of the story is. I think to the parents that are reading or telling this tale, it has a completely different message. I think this is a warning to young women, not so much little girls.
Yeah.
Because
that too. I think I know where
just
you're
the
going
symbolism.
Mm.
Little Red Riding Hood is this young girl now of age. That is
Mhm.
what the Red Hood is symbolizing.
Mhm.
She is now of age. Her mother is telling her, the wolves are out there. The men are coming for you.
Mhm.
Now that you are of age,
Mm.
you're a target.
Mhm.
And that's what it is. I mean, the sexual overtones in this are very heavy.
But of course, you can find the wolf would be more like a creepy old man as opposed to.
Well, I mean, but I don't think it had much to do with the age, because at that time, it's as soon as you reached,
Yeah.
that age,
As soon as you were 13, you were
you
free.
were viable, for marriage.
10 was
for
the age
anything.
of consent, at least in
Yeah.
America.
I think
Right,
that's-
and I mean, I think this is telling you, if it's going to be marriage, that's perfectly okay,
Mhm.
but beware the wolves who are just going to seduce you into,
Mm.
take advantage of you and leave.
Yeah, it's not just flowers.
No, I like that. I like that perspective.
And the wolf is also, he finds out where the grandmother lives, so he goes to the grandmother. So he's doing this in a place that is familiar to her. It's not just, he's just, stealing her in the woods, and being done with it. He's taking her in a place that she's familiar, so that it's not just
Mhm.
the unknown. It could be somebody you know. So you have to pay attention to all men.
But the fact that he's doing the same thing to Grandma as he's doing to Little Red Riding Hood show.
Right. It means that there is no feeling behind it. There is
he's
no
just
romanticism.
he's just looking to seek sensual satisfaction.
Exactly.
It seems. Anybody have any final thoughts?
Don't read it to your children. I mean, obviously this is not allowed to be used in schools, but even if it were, I work as a substitute, a paraprofessional, and even if it, like I said, was to be used in schools, I wouldn't use that. I would go with something different, you know. And as we all, I think, we're all in agreement that these are meant to use. These are scare tactics.
I wonder what would happen if I read the Grimm Brothers and
It was terrible.
and Hans
Kindergarten.
Christian Andersen to my children.
It would, yeah.
I think your children would remember those tales.
Yeah.
And
It-
that's the point. You know, these are not your children's fairy tales.
Yeah.
You know, of today.
Yeah.
You know, they had a specific message that we're trying to get across, and the children are going to remember them.
And I
So
know I
think they
enjoyed
had-
them very much.
I love them just for the simple fact that, you know, it's like those are the tales that you remember.
I think if
Jack and the Beanstalk.
I think if they
that's
could-
one.
I think we're too
That's-
politically correct today that we're
That's-
trying to protect
Mhm.
everything, and by protecting them, you know, and shielding them,
it's
they never,
sugarcoating society.
they never get exposed to it. So when it happens, it's too late because they don't know what to look for.
Mhm.
You know, so I think, you know, there is some value and importance in sharing these stories and passing them on. And as far as literature goes, you know, I remember reading these things as a kid.
Mhm.
You know, and now 40 years later, you know, I
You
still
don't look
remember
it.
them. So, you know, as somebody who is a reader and who is a writer, you know,
Mhm.
these are the types of stories that you want to be remembered.
If you're interested in checking out the fairy tales that were written by the Grimm Brothers, this is the Barnes & Noble edition of the piece. This includes the original tellings of Little Red Riding Hood, Hansel and Gretel, Rumpelstiltskin, Rapunzel, Snow White and Rose Red, Cinderella, and the list that keeps going on.
I think that's the 1912 edition. I believe the 1867 edition, if you want to read the originals, they just released that. So
Mhm.
that one would probably be an more interesting read.
Which one? Snow White?
All of them.
All of them. Okay. I'll definitely have to check those out. Granted, it was at Barnes and Noble. It was a reasonable price for that. So.
Can you get? You can also. I don't know. Can you get it on Amazon?
Yeah, you could. There's probably plenty of Grimm Brother tellings, and they're probably different interpretations as well. It all depends on which one you get your hands on. Alrighty then. Everybody good?
I'm ready.
I agree.
Be sure to join us next time for another episode of Literary Gladiators. Until then, keep reading.
And stay away from those wolves.